Hello, everybody. This is officially the last lecture video of COGS 108 this remote quarter. I know everybody has had a long quarter and there's a lot that's less than ideal with remote learning. I know you all have done a whole lot of quizzes for this class. Typically, I do an interactive lecture in class on the last day with a whole bunch of examples and videos. And it doesn't play the same way while I'm recording on a screen. And I know you've all had a lot on your plate and continue to have a lot on your plate going forward. So with that said, I am going to just present a few slides to wrap up the course. I'm going to give you the rest of the slides that I've updated to include information that I would normally include in a live lecture. It covers the current state of the data science field, gives some breakdowns of who's currently in the field, where it's going, how much people make, and then has a bunch of examples of where data science may be going. So those slides are included. I'm just not going to include them in this wrap up for your sake, for the sake of time, and so that you all at the end can focus on your final projects rather than taking another video quiz. Okay, so to wrap up what you all have done so far this quarter, y'all have learned a lot. We started this quarter talking about data science and data science ethics, how to think about ethics from the question you form all the way through to the way you communicate. And it's this process that you'll be thinking about and have been thinking about in your final projects and that you'll write up and include in your final reports. We then moved into talking about Git and version control, and those of you who had never used Git or GitHub before got your first experience and know that it can sometimes be a bit of a headache. We did a quick review on Python before jumping into talking about where to get data, the different types of data, how to put data into a format that is easy to use for analysis, and how to wrangle data into that format using the Pandas package. From there, we moved into data visualization and doing exploratory data analysis, talked about the best practices for data visualization, which you all will get to put into practice in your final projects. We then started walking through the different analytical approaches, some of which you will use for your final report, some of which you will not, and talked about when each of these applies. So we moved through inference, talked about how to do basic text analysis, moved into machine learning, built a few models there, talked a little bit about non-parametric statistics and geospatial analysis, and then finished out with dimensionality reduction. And this final week, y'all have heard a bit about how to get a data science job, and about how to communicate effectively as a data scientist, which is critically important in this field. Through this, you also heard guest lectures from two individuals, Vivian Peng, who is now a data scientist for the city of LA, but who has her background in Doctors Without Borders. And we got to hear a lot about how art and communication and tying things together in communication really plays a role in her data role. And then we heard from Tyler Richards, who recently graduated from UF and is now a data scientist looking at data integrity at Facebook. So it's been a sprint. It always is throughout the quarter, but we really have covered a lot. And we've mentioned this before, and I'll say it once again, that each of these topics is a course on its own. And know that if you found any of these particularly interested, dig deeper, find other courses, find projects you can do in the area that really stuck with you. And if none of these stuck with you, that's okay. Go find what did stick with you and pursue that a little bit further. For the final project, a handful of you, especially those doing the group project, figured out that asking the right question up front really helps. Many groups have had to reform their question, totally pivot their topic to another question, and have learned a lot in the process, and that is normal. So if you're thinking, I wish I picked the right question up front, know that that's a process. That's part of the process. And finding the data you need is a skill. If you don't have the data you need to answer the question, you either go get those data or you reformat your question. And it in itself is a skill, and we often undervalue this. We often overvalue being able to write the code, being able to wrangle the data really quickly. But if you can't find the data and can't ask the right question in the beginning, you'll struggle to do the project, no matter how good your programming skills are. So, got to know if the data are reliable. You have to check to make sure that the values are correct, that the information that you think you collected is what you collected, and that if they can answer your question. It's also important to recognize what information you don't have. If you thought during your project, hey, I wish I had this information but can't find it, that's now a limitation in your project, and that should be discussed in your discussion. Beyond that, I hope I've convinced you that data visualization and storytelling are important skills. Those are what take your really awesome analyses and make others believe in them. Being able to effectively communicate through your words, through what you say, and through the visualizations you generate is how you can convince others of your work. Many of you have experienced this on the group project or will experience this in your final individual project. Determining what analytical approach is best is hard. There's often multiple reasonable paths. You do your best to find which are reasonable and not think about all that are unreasonable. And from there, you use what you know about statistics and what you've learned from others to figure out how to proceed in a reasonable way. Reasonable minds can differ. You and I may take different analytical approaches, and they can both be right. This is because in data science, there's not always one right and one wrong. There are multiple possible right paths. Knowing that programming is merely a piece of the puzzle for data scientists is important to remember. You do need to be able to write code. You do need to be able to do that well, but that is not the only skill of a data scientist. With that, I wanted to be sure to thank the staff in this class. Atman, Ganesh, and Siddharth, it was their first time TAing this course, and I think they did a really great job getting grades back as quickly as possible, answering questions, making time for y'all to meet outside of office hours and within office hours. For the IAs, it was similar. Abby, Andrew, Emily, Faye, and Michael have helped out the course in varied ways, some of them helping more in discussion sections, some of them really prioritizing answering your questions on Piazza. But together, this team has really made this quarter possible. We have had more students in this one section than I have had in any previous COGS 108 class. And so hopefully you all felt that you got answers to your questions. I do my very best to get answers to everybody with the constraint that I am but one person. So with that, I want to thank you all for your patience, your feedback, and your time. I know learning remotely for many of you has been a struggle. I know not everybody is in an ideal educational environment. I know that learning remotely is not for everybody. I want to be back in the classroom. I want to be on campus. I want to see all your faces and have discussion and office hours together, and I look forward to when we can do that. So I thank you for all the flexibility you all have had so far in this course. And I want to remind you of a few parting messages. You, if you're interested, are the future of data science, right? You are the ones that are going to go into the field, ask the interesting questions, do the interesting analyses, and really get to shape the field. So if you remember anything from this course, please remember that ethics should always be a priority in your work, and you should be thinking about it on every project that you go on to do. That's true of those of you who choose to go into data science and those of you who take a different path. If you go into data science, I want to remind you that data wrangling is like a puzzle, and it is a big part of the job. Sometimes it's dismayed as the boring part of the job, but I want to encourage you to think of it as a place where you get to know your data, where you get to learn more about it, and that puzzles can be fun, right? Putting pieces together and learning more is part of the fun, and it's not just about, say, building a machine learning model at the end. So I'm hoping we can all reframe data wrangling as an interesting, integral part of the data science process. Beyond that, data science is a competitive but rewarding field. So you have a chance to make a big difference in the field, and it can be hard to break through. So know that if you're getting lots of no's, you're not alone. But when you get that yes, you have the chance to really make a difference at whatever company or whatever field it is that you specialize in. The last thing I want to note is that your grade in this course is probably not predictive of your future success. As a data scientist, you could have done really poorly in this class but loved it, and then you could go on to be a really successful data scientist. Similarly, you could get an A+ and have really nailed it on everything in this course but have hated it. In that case, go find something that you do enjoy. Find something that's a good fit. Data science is not for everybody. It does not have to be for everybody. But I hope that through this course, everybody learned more about data literacy and how to interpret data, how to visualize it, and how to communicate with data in mind. So my hope for all of you, whether or not you go on to a career in data science, is that you continue to be good people who are happy and successful in whatever field is the best one for you. So with that, I'm going to say thank you for taking COGS 108. I hope that everybody has a really great rest of the year. Good luck on your finals. Good luck as you finish up the final project in this class. And thank you for hanging through this quarter with me in COGS 108.